Welcome to the Shema Podcast, the podcast for the perplexed, where Torah insights intertwined through personal stories as well as interviews with leading Torah scholars demonstrate the empowering qualities of Torah and mitzvot. For more great Torah learning through Torch, the Torah Outreach Center of Houston, go to torchweb.org. Now to the show.
Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of the Shema Podcast. My friends, I want to first begin by telling you that I started a Shema Podcast for the perplexed WhatsApp community. And the whole idea here was I'm constantly getting emails, messages, and I have loved the questions and meeting new people and expanding my sphere of friends and getting your feedback and your suggestions for episodes and topics that I should cover. And I've already had the experience of connecting people through this podcast, but I would like to take that all to the next level. And that's why I created this WhatsApp group, so we could all sort of come together under one forum. You can provide me your feedback, good or bad, share ideas on making the show better, share ideas on future topics, talk with each other, build new friendships. I love this idea, and I invite you to join. In the show notes is a link to join the group. Just click on that, and I look forward to you being part of the community. Now, I did start this already with several of my close friends that I've been in regular contact with, that have always been supporters of the show. And I don't follow rankings. I don't pay a lot of attention to downloads. I do my podcasts. I got a lot going on. And I get back to work. Whatever it is whatever it is. And I have this dear friend, Ron Cardos, who runs the amazing Elevator Pitches for God podcast, which I've discussed on this show, which was a follow-up to publishing this amazing book called Elevator Pitches for God. And he pointed out to me something, I've seen this over the years, but I sort of remained in the top 10 in Ghana. I never thanked you guys in Ghana for being such devoted listeners to the Shema podcast. And I wanted to tell you, and I told the group this morning, I need some of you guys in the WhatsApp group community. So click on that link below. We would love to talk with you, and thank you for listening so devotedly to the show. Now, my friends, we're going to get on to something a little more serious. You know, I'm not someone that discusses politics, but election season is upon us. And I felt compelled to put in my 2 cents on this matter. Quite frankly, it's disheartening to me that we as the Jewish people are not united on the candidate that we should be voting for. It makes no sense to me. I mean, one candidate in this election is clearly for Israel. They have clearly always supported Israel, and the other candidate has not. One candidate has continually supported Israel in defending itself, and the other candidate has not. One candidate supports freedom, and the other candidate does not. One candidate supports the idea that mankind has the potential to become great and to actualize their potential in this world, and the other candidate does not. The other candidate thinks that we need to be dependent on another man. One candidate supports the family structure, the family unit, and the other candidate does not. One candidate supports the idea that, like it says on the U.S. currency, in God we trust, and the other candidate just wants us to trust in them, in the people that have power simply because they have money and influence. I mean, it's so crystal clear. I don't get it. How can there not be 100% of Jews supporting the right candidate for this upcoming pivotal election? It's sad because, again, we have one candidate that believes in us as individuals, and the other candidate takes a position of a total rejection of an individual's accountability. and being apologetic when people surrender themselves to their base instincts. Why are we doing this? How can there be division on this important election, my friends? It just makes no sense. Now, I hope I am being crystal clear, although I may have sort of misled you from the beginning, but I'm not talking about the U.S. presidential election. That's not a concern of mine. What I'm talking about, my friends, is the election that we have every year at Rosh Hashanah of Hashem versus Amalek and who we want to be king of this world. And we do not have that much time. The election is just a little over a week away from the time in which I am recording this podcast. Next Wednesday, the 29th, the Erev of Rosh Hashanah, the election commences. Year after year, the Jewish people have not coalesced around making their Creator king of this world. And it's been millennia now that he has hidden himself because he's not a tyrant. He wants mankind, led by the Jewish people in unison, to say, we want you, our Creator, to be king of this world. You know, Donald Trump recently said that his election is contingent on whatever the Jews do. Well, I'll tell you something. This election, this Rosh Hashanah, the decision on whether or not our Creator becomes king in this world is also solely in the hands of the Jewish people. If we are not in unison and agreement, then what the rest of the world says holds less weight. Let me ask you a question, my friends. How often over this last year have you cast a ballot through words, thoughts to the opposing party of Amalek versus who we should be casting a ballot for, the right candidate, which is our Creator Hashem? And I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by that I'll share with you how I just messed up last week. I just recently moved into a new home. And one of the things I have to do is switch all my utilities over. So I called the electric company and I said, hey, I moved from this rental around the corner and I now live in this new home. I need to switch my electricity services over to this home. And they said, sure. And the woman I was speaking to said, I have a much better plan for you. I said, great. And she says, yes, this will be much better for you. I'll switch you over. I'm going to send you some documents to sign and it'll all be taken care of. And I said, great. I don't have time to mess with this. Just send me the documents. Let me execute them. Thank you for recommending an electric plan that will be more suitable for me. A month later, I get my bill in the mail. And although this home, even though it's bigger, but it's a new home, it wasn't like the rental that was built in 1980. It's much more energy efficient. So it consumed less kilowatts. But I was looking at an electric bill that was almost 6 times as much. So I called the electric company and asked them what in the world is going on here. Does this include like some one-time fee? And they said, nope, this is your normal monthly bill. And I was just getting furious. I said, how could this be? And they said, well, you switched over to this plan. It's a lot more expensive. And I said, okay, well, switch me back. And they said, well, we can't do that. You signed a 1-year contract. And after explaining what took place, and this person, your colleague in the sales department, told me to take this plan, I don't see how this plan was beneficial for me. I see how it may be the most beneficial plan for you. But I said, I have one question. Was the person who recommended this plan financially incentivized to do so? And he went on to explain the plan in more detail. And I said, no, sir, I don't think you understood the question. And I asked him again, was the person who recommended this plan financially incentivized to do so? And again, he started talking about something that had nothing to do with my question. And finally, I said, sir, my question is binary. Your response is simply yes or no. Was this person financially incentivized to have me go into this plan? And once again, he started talking about something totally different. And I just lost it. I got so angry. And in that moment, after I cooled down, I realized, wow, what did I just do? I acted in a way as someone who believes in Amalek, that the world is all natural, random occurrences, and nothing has any rhyme or reason, and it's not Hashem controlling every single experience I have. Wow. And I get now what Hashem was doing. He was sending me a little message of support and love saying, Dan, you still are not cleaving to me throughout the day. You're still letting the world pull you in, and you want to be successful in your life, and I want you to be successful. In order for that to happen, you have to remain cleaving to me at all times. You have to know that everything that is happening to you is being coordinated by me out of love. And I wanted to show that to you. And that was it. But in that moment, I was voting for Amalek, not Hashem. I know a lot of you are asking, well, what was the electric company? I'm not going to say. It doesn't matter. All I'm going to say is that I am no longer reliant on this particular company for my energy anymore. But back to the point at hand, how often, and ask yourself, we all do this, do we think and say that something in our life is occurring for any other reason other than our Creator? And I'll give you an example. Let's say someone's wanting to get married. They yearn to get married, and they say, the reason I'm not married is because I am too tall, or I'm too short, or I don't make enough money, or there's not enough women here, or men here. One reason after another, void of saying the only truth there is, which is, I am currently not married because Hashem does not want me to be married in this moment, because He loves me and this is what is right for me. And even when we disagree with it, fine, petition to Hashem. Say, please, I'm ready for this. But to give reasons other than Hashem orchestrate it is voting for Amalek. Or someone says, I'm achieving great success in business because of my business acumen, because I work hard, instead of just saying it all came from Hashem. Or someone else is in financial distress and saying, I'm in financial distress because of the economy, because of this situation, I didn't get this degree, whatever it may be, instead of just saying, this is what Hashem wants for me in this moment. We tend to always do this. I think none of us are totally innocent of this, but now is the time to sort of go back. Think of those moments when we ascribe power to anything other than Hashem and say, when I said that, I retract it. I retract that verbal, that thought, that voted for Amalek ruling the world where everything just happens because of randomness and nature. And I put in my vote for my Creator as the King. Let me ask you another question, guys. I know my audience is sort of split between about half in the U.S. and half outside of the U.S. So I apologize. It's a little U.S.-centric, biased, some of the things I discuss, but this applies to all of us. But here in the U.S., we have this presidential election coming up in November. Let me ask you, my fellow U.S. citizens, my Jewish brothers who have the good fortune of being in exile, at least in the United States of America, how much of your thoughts, concerns have been on the U.S. presidential election versus the election of Rosh Hashanah? How much have you campaigned for a particular U.S. presidential candidate versus campaigning for our Creator to be king in this world? It makes no sense because Hashem is the one that controls who will be president of the United States. It's not even up to us. Yes, put in our effort, fine, just like livelihood, but in the end, He controls the outcome. He knows what's best for Israel, the Jewish people, in the end. So for those of us who are putting more effort into the presidential election when we don't control the outcome, why don't we put effort into the election we do control? This Rosh Hashanah establishing Hashem's kingship in this world once and for all. And what does our campaigning look like as we move into the election, my friends? It's simple. We go out in the public looking like Jews with our head held high. We wear our yarmulkes. We wear our tzitzits. And we look for every opportunity to do a Kiddush Hashem. When we're checking out in the grocery store, we're not looking at our phone or talking on the phone. We're acknowledging the person. We're making a good impression on the non-Jewish world and showing them this is what a Jew represents. Kindness, acknowledging your humanity. When we love every Jew, we don't judge our fellow Jew. We are campaigning for our Creator. We are doing a Kiddush Hashem. I'll tell you of a beautiful campaign idea that I learned from Rabbi R.E. Wolbe several years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. Back when a few years ago, we were having a really cold freeze, which impacts us Houstonians a lot more than the rest of the country. And so there's constant, UPS delivery people Amazon delivery people coming to the door, walking out in this freezing weather. And you know what he did? He always made sure that he had hot cocoa, coffee readily available. So these delivery people going out in the cold, knocking on his door, coming to a Jewish person's home, and he was there to empathize, you must be so cold, and offer them a nice hot drink to take with them. That is such an amazing Kiddush Hashem. I've learned from that. I always make sure that when a delivery person comes, I offer them water, a soft drink. It's campaigning. That's all it is. Kiddush Hashem is campaigning. And there's so much we can be regularly doing within the Jewish community and outside of the Jewish community. So my friends, let's take this Rosh Hashanah more seriously and get other Jews. Let's get other Jews to take it more seriously than our U.S. presidential elections or wherever you're listening to this, whatever elections you may have coming up. It's all that matters. It's up to us. I mentioned earlier that I don't pay attention to downloads and rankings with this podcast, but I do know who is listening. Hashem is listening. He listens to everything. He sees everything. And what I pray for and what I hope for is that what he is saying after listening to this episode, that he is saying, I am Hashem, your God, who has taken you from the land of Egypt to be a God to you. And that same God who took you out of the land of Egypt is the same God to you today. I'm right there. I'm hiding, but I'm right here, and I see you. And that is truth. That is the emes. And I am running to be king of this physical world, if you will have me. And I approve this message. Thank you for listening, my friends.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting Torch so they can continue to spread Torah wisdom to the world by making a donation at torchweb.org and clicking donate in the top right corner of the page.